I wasted most of my 20s reading over 30 books a year and implementing none of them. I spent years building an audience of millions without ever conditioning them to buy a single thing from me. And I waited for clarity before I moved, convinced that certainty had to come before action. But after 30, the game changes. What felt productive at 25 becomes a liability at 35. So in this video, I'm walking you through 7 things that are a complete waste of time after you turn 30. If you recognize yourself in any of these, that's not a problem. It's not a red flag. It's data and information for you to collect. So let's get into it. After 30, your energy doesn't recover the same way that it used to. You can't afford to spend months on things that don't compound, and you can't keep depending on patterns that stopped working years ago. But we try to do that though. The cost isn't just what you're doing, it's what you're not building while you're still doing it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through all 7. You're going to recognize at least 3 of them. And by the end, you're going to know exactly which one to eliminate first. So here's number 1 is waiting for permission or validation before you start building. Now, I got to say this out the gate. Validating a product before you build it, that is a smart move because it saves you weeks, lots of time of wasted effort. But that's not the same thing as waiting for external approval before you act on an idea that you have. See, I've watched people say, I'm not going to start this until my audience is bigger. Or they say, I'm not going to monetize until someone in my audience tells me that they're ready to buy something from me. See, that's not validation. That's fear. And after 30, you need to know the difference between testing an idea and waiting for someone to tell you that you're allowed to try it. One saves you time. The other one is going to cost you years if you're not careful. Number 2 is chasing clarity instead of building through uncertainty. Now, I know this firsthand because I used to pray to God to show me every single step before I would ever take the first one. And that mindset is what kept me stuck for so many years in my 20s. But clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from moving, from taking action. So you don't need to see the whole route, the whole journey ahead of you before you start driving or before you take that first step. Because after 30, you don't need perfect information. All you need is momentum. And that only occurs if you first take action. Number 3 is trying to be good at everything instead of leveraging what you're already strong at. See, over the past 4 years, I tried to master a bunch of different skills: lead generation, copywriting, sales, video sales letters. And the messed up part, looking back on it, is I tried to do it all at once. But when I did that, I lost sight of what I was already strong at. See, it wasn't until I got laser focused on one thing, which is helping my clients to create digital products, that everything started to click and come into place. Like a carpenter, right? See, a carpenter doesn't bring every tool to every job. And I know this because one of my cousins is a carpenter. I used to work with him during some summers, during some winters, and we never took every single tool that he had in his shop to a job. If we were working on a roofing job, then we didn't need the tools that were necessary if we were putting up a wall. And it's very similar in our lives as well. After 30, you should know what your tools are. You don't need to be good at absolutely everything. You don't. You need to be excellent at the things that are going to create the most leverage for you. That is the key. And number 4 is consuming content without ever implementing, like me in all of them books, right? I told y'all, I went all through my 20s and I was bragging about how many books I'm reading. I read 30 books a year. I thought I was doing something. It wasn't until I hit my 30s that I realized that I hadn't implemented or taken action on almost anything that I had read in those books. So reading without action is just like depositing money into an account and it's not earning you any interest, like absolutely none. That means you're actually losing as opposed to being in a position where you can gain. See, after 30, the goal isn't for you to consume more, not at all. It's for you to implement better. And number 5, this is a good one, y'all. Waiting for the right time to monetize what you already know. Please, please don't make the mistake that I made. I used to run a very successful podcast for years, and this was long before podcasting ever became popular. See, I had the skills. I had the skills for editing podcasts, putting them together, finding guests, all of these skills that I had. I had the proof that it worked as well by all of the people that was listening to my content, supporting, but I waited to monetize. And then guess what? It wasn't too long when podcasting started to take off, and I was looking to my left and I saw John Lee Dumas, who launched Podcasters Paradise. And this brother went from making six figures to seven figures, and he was teaching what I had already been doing for years. But the difference was he knew how to monetize those skill sets, whereas I didn't. And that put him way far ahead on the financial plane than I was. And a lot of us are in that same boat where we're looking at other people that are successfully monetizing skills that we already been developing for years longer than they have. I don't want that to happen to you, right? So here's what happened though. I saw that and I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I can begin to monetize this audience I got. And you won't believe what happened when I finally launched that first product, or maybe you will. I can tell you, I got no sales at all. I remember that day vividly, man. I had a dentist appointment that same day. I hit launch on that product and I went to the dentist office and I was just so excited because I couldn't wait to get back home and see that all of these sales were in my inbox and my email. Because back then, this was back in the time before phones was popular. So it wasn't like I could check it on my phone. It was before the iPhone and all of that. So I had to wait till I get back home. I checked my email and it was nada. Not a one sale. And it gutted me. It gutted me. And that's when I knew something had to change. But here's the thing. The main issue, the main reason why I didn't get any sales is because I had conditioned my audience to expect everything for free. I had been giving them everything for free for years. So why in the world would they start paying for it? But after 30, let's be real, you can't afford to wait for the right time to monetize what you already know. The right time was when you got good at it and you could help other people to solve a problem that they had and were willing to invest to solve. Now, let's talk about number 6, which is treating every single setback like it's a personal failure instead of information and data that you can collect that will propel you forward. Let's dive into it, right? I spent over a decade creating content without making any significant money. That's what I was telling y'all about not too long ago, right? And this is the thing. For a long time, I treated that like it was a personal failure. Like, how is this guy making 6 and 7 figures and I'm not making nothing? I've been doing this longer. All of those thoughts that go through your head. And I started feeling like, yo, man, like I failed at this. But what I started to realize later was that setbacks are not verdicts. They're not the final verdict, definitely. All they are is data for us. Your setback is not proof that you failed or that you're a failure. It's proof that you tried something and now you know more than you did before you started. The only real failure is when you refuse to use that information or that data that you've been collecting to further your progress. Like, that is the only time that you can consider it a failure. Now let's dive into the last one, number 7, which is comparing your internal reality to someone else's external highlight reel. Now, this is something many of us do. And after 30, it happens all the time. You get on social media and everybody looks like they got it all figured out. They live in their best life. But here's the thing. If you took a non-traditional path like me, then that when you see those photos, when you see all of that glamorous lifestyle, 9 times out of 10, you're going to start asking yourself a question that I've asked myself plenty of times, which is, yo, am I behind? Am I behind in life? Like, are these people that much further ahead of me? But what you're doing is like comparing the rough draft of your book that you're currently in the process of writing to someone else's published book. Like they're two completely different books. They're two completely different stages of the process. On top of that, you're making decisions based on a story in your head that isn't even real. Because guess what? We don't even know what's going on in their lives. All we see is the highlight reel. Everything may not be as good or glamorous as it appears on socials. So one thing that you got to realize is that after 30, you have to be absolutely ruthless and protective of your internal narrative, the stories that you're telling yourself, because that's what's going to dictate whether you accept failure and don't progress anymore, or you say, you know what, forget all of that. I got to keep moving. I got to keep pushing because I know success is inevitable and it's not too late for you to achieve the dreams and the things that you've been chasing after. Because if you let that comparison dictate your choices, man, you will spend, I would say, probably the next decade just chasing after somebody else's life instead of building your own, building the life that you want, the one that you love. So we've already gone through all 7, but let me give them to you one more time. First one is waiting for permission before you start building. Number 2 is chasing clarity instead of building through uncertainty. Number 3 is trying to be good at everything instead of leveraging what you're already strong at. Number 4 is consuming content without implementing it. And 5 is waiting for the right time to monetize what you already know. 6 was treating every setback like a personal failure instead of information. And number 7 was comparing your internal reality to someone else's external highlight reel. See, you don't need to fix all 7 of these this week, right? You just need to pick one. And if you're open to sharing, which one are you going to eliminate first? Drop it in the comments and let me know. Now, those are the 7 things that you need to stop doing after 30, but there's one pattern that I see over and over again, and the people who still do it, they never ever win. Go watch the video, People Over 30 Who Still Do This Never Win, and make sure that that's not you. Until then, I'm Jay, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay blessed.